Hello and welcome to the show. On the program tonight, we meet the last battle group headed for duty in Afghanistan. And a new mental health initiative is happening in the border city. The people behind that join us here in studio. But first, he's making changes and cleaning up the hall. Mayor Jeff Mulligan's in the chair. All that tonight on Around the Region. 1,400 Afghanistan-bound soldiers are training for departure.
Through the reality of what is replicated here on the ground, we try to achieve that cultural awareness that it will be crucial to succeeding.
How does a soldier prepare for one of the most complex wars in Canadian history? But first, Lloydminster City Hall is undergoing some changes. Thanks so much for joining us on the show here tonight. We have Mr. Jeff Mulligan, who is the Lloydminster City Mayor. He is in here to talk about just new things going on in the city. One thing that I was really excited about last time I was at the council meeting was the new Civic Center floor. Now, that's kind of a big investment. It is $95,000. Tell me a little bit about how that investment is going to pay back.
Well, in our mind, being able to put a floor in very quickly and being able to get it out quickly and use an ice surface as a hard floor during the winter months is something we couldn't do. It allows us to host bigger events that need a dry floor rather than an ice surface. So how we'll get it paid back, it'll be the events we put on, the rent we get from it, and of course the people that we bring to our city for these other events.
Now, do you think that'll pay back fairly quickly?
Well, you know, it's hard to say. In rent alone, no.
Right.
You know, are people going to pay several $1,000s for the floor? In some cases, their contract will demand that. But for the most part, it'll be in the events that we host, the wellness that we create, the economic development that occurs from it. And the thing is that this floor will last for a long, long time. We can use it not just in the Civic Center, but if we build a new building, we can also use it in other buildings, be it the Commonwealth Centre or other arenas.
So, what do you think the maintenance on this floor is? I mean, like, is this something where, like, it's a $95,000 investment and then in 5 years from now we're going to have to do any maintenance on it?
No, this thing is almost crush-proof, crack-proof, break-proof. It breaks into small 2x2 sections, 4x4 type tiles sets. You can drive everything from a forklift over it to heavy loads. And it stores in a sea can. It doesn't need weather protection, so we'll store it in a sea can type environment. It'll take a small team of people to put it in, a small team to take it out.
Do you think that we were missing out on culture in Lloydminster because we weren't getting concerts or bigger events in?
Well, we know for certain that recently we've had events that have been here and cancelled or have come through and not stopped because we didn't have a facility that could host the size of their stage or generate enough people into the event that it would create the financial wherewithal for it to continue.
Another new thing that is sort of coming down the pipe in City is this new municipal development plan. Now, you're calling it the E4 plan, Energize, Engage, Execute, and Evolve. Why don't you talk a little bit about that and how this is going to help the community?
Well, in business or in any initiative that you're going to take on, you need to have a clear plan. And the Municipal Development Plan, E4, is a comprehensive municipal development plan which will have a bunch of hooks to put other things like strategy, infrastructure, all of the economic plans underneath of it. But we need huge stakeholder engagement. We need all the members of the community that we approach to engage in helping us develop this in concert with our consultants who are coming along with us who've done this many times. This is a legislated requirement to have this comprehensive municipal development plan, which we're going to, for fewer words and less mumbo jumbo, will be called E4.
Now, so what exactly do you need from the community on this plan then?
Well, there's a number of points of engagement where we're really asking for their input so we can help create a shared vision.
Okay.
What is the city going to touch like, feel like? How's it going to grow? How's it going to handle people in that growth? And what does the city need from a services perspective, infrastructure perspective, so that we can plot out a 20-year growth, a 50-year growth, and the kind of numbers that we need to support?
Now, I know you were talking earlier too about just getting people involved in this because it's more of a long-term sort of commitment. Where are you at on that?
Well, people are going to get letters, they're going to get phone calls from the city, and they're going to look at it as, is this a volunteer thing? How much commitment do I have to have? I'm already busy. And unfortunately, busy people make the best people for stakeholder engagement. We need these leaders, we need these busy people. We have to respect their time, get them the information ahead of time, and make sure when they come to a meeting that they are actually able to influence the outcome. Because if they just sit there and they feel like they're not heard, waste of time. We've got to get them there, we've got to hear them, and we've got to react to it and put it in the plan.
So I guess if someone's watching this, who should come out and be part of the C4 plan?
Well, we'll be approaching people, and we'll be approaching community leaders, people, members at large, community members at large, and we're trying to get a good cross-section so that the plan is comprehensive.
Excellent. Let's talk about transportation master plan, pardon me for a little bit. Highway 16, majorly under construction most of the summer. It is clearing up now, though. You're hoping that'll be done in the next month here?
Well, the last 2 summers, right? We have a very short season in which to do road work.
Yeah.
And we, as the city gets bigger, we have a lot of road work to do. And we all know that Highway 16 is used extensively with highway traffic. And it breaks down faster than any road almost in any other municipality. So it is a hard job. It is something, we try to keep it open. We've only got 3 to 4 months a year to work on it. It is coming to conclusion, but we still have the east side of Highway 16. Anybody who's driven on the east side of our city on Highway 16 will say, whoa, 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 Mr. Mayor, you're not done.
I want to talk more about this transportation master plan, but we just have to take a quick break. Mayor Jeff Mulligan in studio here. Well, if you're just joining us now, we're in the middle of a conversation with Lloydminster Mayor Jeff Mulligan. We were just talking about the transportation master plan. Now, we just sort of finished talking about Highway 16. That's not the only thing that's underway here in Lloydminster, and certainly, we just did a big study. What else is coming down the pipe as far as transportation?
Well, it's funny that almost all the priorities stayed the same between the 2 studies done many years apart, except for Highway 17 went right to the top of the list.
Which is being worked on, though.
Highway 17, we have a plan, we have a concept plan, and to do the one-way couplet and to widen, of course, the road to get to 4 lanes. But it's one of those things that if you do a bit of it, you're just going to move the problem.
Right.
So as we do a bit, until we get end to end, people shouldn't expect a full alleviation of the problem.
Now, I know that public transportation was also on that list, but we don't really have a set plan for it yet. There's sort of preliminary stuff that has to go on. What are you hearing from people in the community about public transportation?
Well, bear in mind we have a level of it already. A lot of people don't realize that we have a senior taxi system, and we have the handy bus. 2 very essential services doing great things in our community already. But we do have 2 other pronounced needs in my mind. That is for some level of public transit that will help them move to work, to the residents. We have a lot of new workers in town. They don't have a lot of vehicles, and they need to get to different places to get to work. We also have students, we have seniors, and we have youth that all have to be moved. In addition to that, we have this whole need to serve with the exhibition growing. How are we going to get people from the hotel corridor effectively to the exhibition for big events? I see. And so I think we have a shuttle service of some sort for the hotel corridor, and then we have a kind of an entry-level public transit bus system, which would be probably just 14 or 15 passenger vans running on a circuit till we get our feet wet.
So it is something you guys are working on then anyways?
Well, we are studying it. We know it's there. We know it's a need on the horizon. What we don't want to do is go in with some larger-than-life solution that burdens us with operating costs that we can't carry. It needs to be right-sized, and it may only be that a transit system works at some peak times, or it might start out with baby steps. Let's walk before we run. But we absolutely understand it's a need, and it's something that has to be on our near-term horizon.
I want to switch gears here because we're kind of running out of time, and I want to talk about restructuring the hall a little bit. You've had 2 very long-term employees resign in the past couple of months. We had Roger Brecko, who resigned, I guess, in May or early summer anyways, May 10th, and then also Tom Lysak recently. He's coming up on his last weeks here anyways. That's, 60-plus years of experience here. How is that going to affect City Hall?
Well, these are people that had a lot of experience, as you point out, a lot of knowledge. But you know what? I ran on a platform of positive change and proven leadership. People voted for that. And you have to build that capacity to put positive change in place. And the leadership that I bring says, we will get through this process. We will transform the City Hall into what people asked me to put in place and help get started.
Now, positive change is one thing. I think around kitchen tables in Lloydminster, people are saying that you're restructuring, that it wasn't totally a resignation, it was an encouraged resignation. What do you say when you hear that?
Well, I think, the press releases say what they say. I think in both cases, with City Manager Brecko, he'd done a spectacular job for the city. And he knew that it was time for him to seek some new things, and he's got some great things underway right now that he's doing with his new challenges. And in Tom's case, Tom had carried the load of getting things done in this city for 32 years. How many people, carry the load, carry the freight for 32 years like he did? Tom really wants to get away from the bureaucracy, and he really, and I'll let him speak for himself when he talks to the media, but he really loves helping, and he really loves making a difference. And I think what he's going to do is focus his time in his life after City Hall and making things happen rather than bureaucracy.
Are you worried that this might sort of maybe sway an election? Like, you mean you came into power and then 2 long-term city people left? Are you worried about that, like for your next term?
I think I'm delivering the goods. We're achieving the results. And you know what? If I woke up every day worrying about the election, I've got 3 years that I know I have a job to get done. And in those 3 years, I have a job that I have to do and deliver. In 3 years, if I choose to run again, and if others choose to run against me, the public will validate whether they think I've achieved the goal. The most important thing I can do is get up every morning and say, I have 2 years left that I know that I'm in this job. And in those 2 years, I'm going to deliver the promise that I made, just like I have in my 32-year professional life.
Let's talk about some of these new structure too. So you had these 2 guys leave. Tom's job has actually been split into like 3 different jobs.
Yes, it has.
He was crazy.
Tom carried a huge load, and you can do that when you have 32 years of experience
Right.
and familiarity. But as we change the model, as we change the reporting model, as we want to communicate more to the public in certain ways and with our staff, many of these functions that Tom had required a whole bunch of communication to happen in the back end. And so when you start loading that up and paperwork and what have you, it splits into probably 3 or 4 areas. So the city clerk's been reestablished, the director of protective services, those have both been internal promotions that have filled those positions. We've put some of the work into infrastructure, which is led by Adam Holmes, and some of the work in corporate services led by Don Newland. And so you look at that, yes, it's really, his work is spread across 3 other positions now. That shows you had a guy who was working long hours and delivering the goods.
Now, we're running out of time here, but just quickly, you've been in the midst of city manager interviews this week. How are those going? When do you think we can get a city manager in place? Really
good. You give people an opportunity to impress you with their knowledge, with their passion, and I think they will. What somebody's going to have to do is come in here as a city manager, know they've got the support of city council, and really assimilate the staff in an engaged way.
Excellent. Well, thanks so much for coming in, Jeff. It's been really great to talk to you today.
Hey, it's always fun to be with you, Whitney.
Thank you. This has been our conversation with Mayor Jeff Mulligan. Your top news headlines are after the break.